How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good, thanks.
No, it was an amazing experience. I've kind of been wanting an outlet to express it for the MBTI community because I don't know how much real evidence there is with ENFP, INTJ. I've seen a few couples that way, and they always seem really happy, and I understand why now.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So, how did you guys met? How long did you stay together? What's a little bit like the context?
Yeah, the background. So we met because I came to France for a year to be a nanny, and we met at one of the family Christmas parties. So obviously he was French and I'm American. But yeah, what's the rest of the background? We were together for, oh my gosh, it's like after going to France, I can't even remember what year it is anymore. We were together for about a year, and then even then, when we weren't technically together, when we were talking, it would always kind of feel the same. So we tried to rehash it a couple times just because the connection was so strong, and it made long distance really easy too. So, because there was just a lot of the things, speaking of like what an ENFP needs in a relationship, there were just so many things that naturally came between INTJ and ENFP, like that trust and like words of affirmation and reassurance and like the same kind of moral code and things like that. It was just like a very, very good match. So
you're sure 100% that he was INTJ?
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Yeah.
And how did you? So you met at a party.
Actually, I love this test so much. I was like, please take the test. And he told me when he first took it and found out he was INTJ, of course, he looked up a compatible type and he knew I was ENFP. And he thought I was with someone at the time. I don't know why he thought that, but I think when I came to France, everybody like might have thought I was with somebody. So he just was like, darn, that would have been a good match, but then we ended up together.
That's so sweet. So you met at a party, and then you started to talk. What happened? How did you ended up liking each other?
It was really interesting because he was a total INTJ, just like blending into the shadows and the side. Although when I walked into the room, I really felt like drawn to him. And I think that's part of that weird chemistry. I was just like, what's going on with this person, you know? But he was kind of in the shadows. We actually ended up approaching each other at the same time. I turned around to ask about a drink, and he kind of said, oh, so you're American, like at the same time. And from there, we talked a little bit. He asked if we could like hang out later. And then I was kind of busy for a month, but we ended up connecting and doing like a karaoke place with some of his friends. And then he just kept inviting me to things with his friends, or like just us where we'd go rock climbing or something. But he kept throwing me for loops. Like he'd say something and I thought that maybe he was interested. And then he'd say something like, oh yeah, you can just come along because, you know, they said that, you know, it's fine if other people are there. And I was like, okay. So it's not about me, but, you know, and it's just like these games a little. Well, I don't think INTJs, that's the nice thing, is they don't play games, but it is confusing if they like you because they will just try really hard to not show you. Yeah.
Why do you think they do that?
I think part of it is, especially if they feel very strongly for you, they need to get in touch with their own emotions and they kind of go slow with it. It might be kind of alarming if they feel something really intense for you. And I don't think they want, I hope I'm speaking okay for INTJs, but I don't think they want maybe anyone in their business until they've figured it out. and they don't want anything circulating about their feelings. You know, it's kind of private for them until they want to say, like, okay, I feel this way.
And how is it for you? When did you feel like when did you start to feel to have feelings for him, and what did you do with your feelings?
Yeah, I was immediately interested by why I felt so pulled to him, but then I kind of felt like we started out as friends and we just talk about stuff and we were just seeing each other so much. But I think where it really started to happen was the moments that I think an ENFP wishes for, where it's like that depth. It's when we started having those deep conversations and spending a lot of just like alone time together, and neither of us would really want to go, you know, and that kind of, for me.
My computer cut when you were saying we were starting spending time together and having long conversations and not wanting to go away, and then it cut. So okay. I don't have the rest of the sentence, and I really want to know. Sorry.
Yeah, it's when we started having those deep conversations, and normally when I'm hanging out with friends, there's a point where I can tell that they don't want to, they're kind of tired and maybe I should go home or they should go home. But it just felt like with him, we just kept, it's like, okay, you want to have breakfast now? Okay, you want to go for a walk now? Okay, you want to go to the store? You want to come to the store with me? And it just became, we never wanted to be separated from each other. And I think I mainly felt it for sure when we went out one night with a group of friends and he was doing that thing again where we'd spent all day alone together. So I thought it was special. And then he went and took us around all his friends. And I was like, so maybe it's not very, but then we were walking late at night with the whole group of friends. And he was so far ahead of me with one of his friends, just talking like I wasn't even there. And I just remember getting so frustrated. I was like, does he like me or not?
How long did that period lasted, when you didn't know, when he was not like making specific moves? Or
it only took like 2 months, and that was us seeing each other mainly on the weekends. But I decided to tell myself that knowing his type and knowing that he still wanted to see me every weekend, I know how important it is for an INTJ to factor you into their schedule. I was like, come on, there's got to be something. So it was kind of like a 2-month period.
And so, so what happened when you realized that you both had feelings for each other? What was the aha moment?
I think we sort of realized it around the same time. He told me his moment was when we were in the metro and I had to get off the metro really quickly because it was my stop. So I was like, oh, bye. And I like went away, and he said he went home and he was like, oh no. And then for me, it was when he was walking ahead of the group with his friends, like I wasn't even there. And I was just like, it's when we weren't around each other that we felt frustrated that we weren't with each other. It was the missing each other part, I think, that made it obvious. But the aha moment, just after spending a series of weekends hanging out together, he kissed me, and that was kind of it. Like we just, and then we poured out all of our feelings. Just like expressed, like, I've been wanting to like tell you forever. So it was really beautiful, and it really progressed from there, where it just felt like what I loved about being with an INTJ was it felt like I was always included and always a really important part of his routine, his day, his schedule, his life, you know?
So you would say that INTJs, when they love you, when they want you in their life, they are very straightforward. They tell you like what you need to hear. They plan everything for you. They're really like here.
Yeah, pretty much. I think that when they like you, they might hide it a lot initially, but then if it starts coming out, they'll take your signals. They'll take a long time maybe to process how they feel, but But yeah, then it was very straightforward. I remember him just casually talking about how strongly he felt for me, and I was like, when was this? You know, I just felt like this is the first time I'm hearing all this, you know. But yeah, it was straightforward and they're honest, and yeah, I think that's extremely reassuring to an ENFP, like honesty and all that. It's like I was never guessing what he was thinking. He'd just tell me, you know.
So were you asking, because that was one of the questions that was in the list, like ENFPs being very, very aware of what the others think or might think and need to ask for reassurance or need to ask for the answer and will push until they have the answer. So for with him, you didn't have to ask really, or you had conversations that were like very natural?
Yeah, it's like I've been in the position my whole life of having to check with friends and family, how are we? I think it's because of ENFP, you're very aware that the people around you can go out into the world and be affected by their job and their other friends. They can come back, and it can come back in between your relationship. So it's, you know, we don't expect things to be the same every day just because you say it's good. We want to make sure you're okay. We're very emotionally sensitive, so we're always like checking. But it just felt like once you're in that special place with an INTJ, it just felt like we just met each other halfway. Like I only had to ask, you know, here and there, and then he'd reassure me just because he was already saying it, you know. So it just felt like it balanced out just right. I didn't have to pull too hard for anything, which was a relief. You know,
would you say would you say that INTJs don't play that game, like of not letting you know what they feel, and that they're really like serious when they're in a relationship?
Yes, I would definitely say that. I felt like the mind games were just not there, and it was amazing because I was in a relationship like a couple years before that where it was like all mind games all the time. And they don't really do mind games. At least I think a healthy INTJ doesn't. If they're not super mature or if they're kind of unhealthy, they might play some mind games because they're very intelligent, you know.
So what were you talking about? Because like INTJs, they're very intelligent, intellectual. They might be like interested in certain aspects or certain subjects, and for ENFPs, they might be more they can talk about everything and see like something interesting in everything. So what was the subjects where you both were passionate about to talk about, like all the time?
Well, definitely all the time we were helping each other with the English and French. So we were always like talking about language and how interesting it is. We talked about each other's favorite movies a lot, or just like plot lines that we liked. We loved talking about MBTI because I got him into it. He'd always be like, sister's an ESFP, and do you think my other sister is an ISFJ? And we'd be like having kind of fun. We talked about psychology a lot, and MBTI, language, movies, songs, music was a huge coming together point because his taste in music was incredible, and I felt like he was always finding music that I was like, how in the heck did you find this? Like, where did this come from? But I can also find weird little gems too. So yeah, music was a good point.
And would you say that the connection, so you already said that, but what is interesting with perfect matches in MBTI is that connection is kind of immediate, and you don't have to build on it, kind of. It's just like here, and everything that follows is natural. How would you describe that feeling of just like you're kind of made for each other, even if it doesn't work in the, you know,
Yeah.
like for life, there is this connection that, could you try to explain that?
I can't stress enough how incredible it is. And I've also learned that, you know, you can make things work with a lot of different people, but yeah, it's pretty nice when you can just have that natural base, the things that are most important to you, like the clear communication, the trust. Like the biggest thing I think that's so crazy between ENFP and INTJ is just that weird natural trust. I know he was never trying to hurt me. Like even if he said something, because they speak bluntly sometimes, he was never intentionally trying to harm me with it. You know, he wanted to make things better, and it just felt like a team. It was it's so nice to have that stuff just like built in, you know, because I've been in other situations where I had to do so much work, and then even then it just wasn't a very good base. You know.
What is very interesting with like those kind of couples is that even if after it doesn't work, you just keep an amazing memory of it.
It is an amazing memory, and at the same time we still speak and want each other's happiness. It's like the most healthy, incredible thing I've ever experienced. Just to know that there's someone out there, even like long distance, when we did long distance after I left France, it's just, I knew he was out there caring so much about me, and I felt like I really couldn't go anywhere anymore without feeling like I am supported in the world, you know? Knowing there's someone who totally saw me completely and gets me. Because I think ENFP, it's like everybody will see pieces of ENFP in different areas of life, but then it felt like with INTJ, they see all of you. I mean, I don't know if that's for every ENFP, INFP relationship, but it felt fully seen. So that was incredible.
So how did you see him, and how did he see you? What did he brought you?
Oh boy!
And what did you bring to him?
Okay, so oh geez, so I see INTJ. What I saw in him was like this. He was like a weird dark magnet. I felt like I could just get sucked into this vortex.
Yeah.
I saw him as very like logical, honest. But what's interesting is I feel like he'd always make these kind gestures for family and friends, and sometimes I felt like it wasn't seen very much, but I would see it and I'd acknowledge it, and it was just, he felt so happy, because I felt like what it is they say ENFP sees INTJ's heart more than most people, because that's what we're sensitive to, and INTJ sees ENFP's intellect. So he really respected my brain, like all the time. He'd always ask for my opinions on things. He always thought that what I had to say was really crazy and interesting, and he loved how I thought in like a web, and I loved how he thought like grounded in a straight line. And I think it was this eternal fascination of like, how did that just happen and you didn't express anything? Like, how is your face completely blank? It was just like shocking to me. But he was always shocked at how every little thing could make me go, oh my gosh, oh my god, whoa. And I'm so he said like, it's like I can see 10 emotions on your face in like 5 seconds. I think it's that lack of emotion and then the tons of emotion that always was really funny between us. But yeah, what I think I brought to him is he really respected my creativity, my intellect, and just my sense of fun. He felt like I was always appreciating little things and being very positive, and it made him feel more positive and level. And I think I brought in like a spiritual aspect for him, because he kind of started trying to think about things sometimes the way I do. And he just thought that was really interesting, because he likes how I see things so differently. And then I always felt like he gave me a really balanced structure that I could play inside of, you know, and I wasn't going to be judged. Yeah.
And would you say that you needed that, or it just like surprised you how well you were feeling?
Yeah, I guess for me personally, it is really, really nice to have the structure. Like, I feel like I'm very balanced in a relationship or out of a relationship. I feel like I'm able to communicate myself really well and work on things, and I don't, you know, get emotionally. I can regulate my emotions. I've worked on my tertiary functions, you know.
Yeah.
but it was a huge relief if I was going into a relationship. I like to take relationships pretty seriously. So it was nice to have something that was so easy. I don't know if it was completely necessary, but I think in the long run, maybe yes. Yeah. In the long run, it's probably good to have exactly what we had.
And so now I'm curious to know what happened, why you're not together anymore.
Well, and I've heard this happen with other couples that were ENFP, INTJ. It's just that we are so okay independently that when we're in a relationship, we're not filling in holes for each other, we're complementing each other. And it's this great balance of independence and coming together. So what happened was, partially our paths were just not like lining up. Like I had my whole realization of like, oh no, like I need to be in California. I need to pursue acting. And it was like a peak in my life. It wasn't just him and me. It was like everything else kind of came together, and I realized where I needed to be in the world, what I needed to be doing. And he is working with this like tech company. So it just kind of wasn't working out, lining up that way, but we still tried. Still tried. We knew it was a risk when we first started, because I came to France, I was a nanny, and I was going to leave, you know, after a year. And we only dated from March to July while I was there, and then continued long distance after that until like February. And he visited America. I went back out and visited France. But the more we visited each other and everything, the more it kind of seemed like, yeah, I mean, I don't know if I could live in France right now, you know, again, I don't know if it's right. I already did it. And then with him, he's got all his family and his work. It just was like huge different lifestyles, and they weren't lining up. But even so, we made it work for a really long time, and it felt really pretty easy. So we had to have a few discussions after like visiting each other, and it's always like our plans were in the making and we would advance on them, but it had never complete, because I think we knew, you know, that it just wasn't quite like lining up. So that's kind of what happened. But then we've had the most mature conversations I've ever had with anybody about going our separate ways, and how literally our breakup was like, I wish you the best of everything. And like, I want you to have an amazing life and everything, and you can always call me. And then we even took a long amount of space from each other, but it never made me feel, I mean, you know, we admitted to each other later that we had like our ups and downs when we weren't talking, like our feelings about each other, because we'd get our upset feelings, but then we'd also, it's just, he said that like when he was upset, he only felt better when he thought about how like happy we were and how happy he wants me to be and all that. So yeah, that's kind of how it went.
And would you say that, because you were saying like, okay, when we were together, everything kind of lined up for you, would you say that this relationship kind of changed your vision of life or your vision of people? Did it change something in you that you think helped you, or it
changed me on the deepest level. It was one of the most powerful things I've ever experienced. I mean, and I've experienced a lot, like moving around and doing a year in France and all this stuff, but that relationship made me see what it's like to be unconditionally loved all the way, seen completely for who I am, and I'm perfectly fine just how I am. It changed how I view relationships. I think that, I don't think people should settle, it's all those things. It was completely powerful for me and made me see the type of connection that's possible in the world. So yeah, it changed everything. It gave me the confidence too to pursue my dreams. I mean, I really feel like even though it pulled us apart in a way, I was able to do it because I felt supported so deeply. Yeah.
This is so amazing. This is exactly why I'm launching Birdy.
Yeah.
Like, because
I was so excited when I heard about it.
Yeah, me too, because I'm still single right now. but it's like, like I know a lot of people have never encountered their perfect match or like a really good match in terms of psychology, and that until the point that where they haven't, they're not gonna know what it means. And like we know, but they don't know yet. So so that's good that we do these videos and that, like we explain that there is something that is kind of magical. You can have it.
It is.
Yeah, but
I was concerned when I got out of the relationship. I said to myself, oh my gosh, there's all these people running around and they think that it's just this communication thing, or they think that they can, and I'm like, they don't even know.
Yeah, they don't know.
That all those things that are struggles, I mean, and really, you can be with whoever you fall in love with, but I feel like they don't realize that those struggles might be something that's just, other relationships I've had, it's like, by nature, neither of us were doing anything wrong. It just, we weren't compatible that way. Like, our communication was not compatible. What we agreed on being okay, like around our families, how we talked to each other, it just wasn't. It didn't line up, and it's not their fault. It's not my fault. I think a lot of people don't know that,
Yeah. And I feel also a lot of people are in a relationship and, like they're in love because at some point you fall in love, and then they're kind of stuck, and they work on the relationship and everybody change and everybody fight for this relationship, when actually like there is someone that was for those people, and that they didn't choose to pursue, to take more time or to so I think it's sad, and I really want to change that, so
make it easier for people and optimize their options.
Yeah. And I'm so happy that you wanted to share about your relationship. That's funny because we had also one interview with a couple and they were also INTJ ENFP. So I think that it's like something that when someone is in a relationship like that, they want to say like, this is amazing. So I haven't interviewed yet like ENFP, INFJ, which are supposed to be like the perfect thing. And I just had a question about the thinking, feeling part, because you say you were seeing their hurts and they were seeing more your intellect. But how did you react the first time you were dealing with like pure logic, like putting everything aside and just thinking like without taking anyone's feeling into the discussion? Did it shock you any?
I thought it was funny. I think that's the thing is sometimes like ENFP and INTJ both typically have like a dark sense of humor, and I don't think it comes out as much with ENFP, or people don't see it as much, but when an INTJ just like says something very bluntly to an ENFP, that can be hilarious. And ENFP can do the same thing, especially around INTJ. They can just show that side a little more, because with everybody else, you're so worried. You're like, oh, I care. I don't want you to think I'm upset at you. But INTJ, you can kind of just say, you can say what's on your mind.
So it was more like a relief that you didn't have to filter anything or take everyone into account. You could just like...
Yeah, and I'd even do it on purpose, because we do that on purpose with each other, because it was just this eternal shocking each other at what each other could say, but it was so funny. The sense of humor, it was just hilarious.
Yeah.
And I do want to say real quick with INFJ, I've come across INFJ, and I really think it depends on the type of ENFP, because it depends what that ENFP wants. Because when I've been around INFJs, it seriously just feels like high friendship vibes. It doesn't feel like, it's not that pull. Although I have been around one INFJ where I was like, I could see it. You know, I could see it with this one. But like other INFJs I've been around, I'm just like, no, like you're just my friend. And that's, for me, a personal preference. I just think my match would be INTJ. But yeah, I think other ENFPs, depending, maybe they want more of that sense of humor, that sensitivity, then INFJ might be better for them.
Yeah, exactly. It depends. So in Birdy, for example, we recommend the top three. So INFJ, INTJ, and the third one, I don't remember.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah.
Sorry, third
one. But yeah, I also think that the TF preference might be very personal. Like for me, I know that I need the F. I would really fight with the T. But this is totally personal. So I completely understand. And yeah, did we miss anything? Is there something you wanted to talk in particular that we forgot to talk about?
I was trying to think if people wanted to, because, you know, we've gone on and on about how great the relationship with ENFP and INTJ is. I wanted to think if there were any conflict points that I could mention.
Yeah, good point.
It's hard for me to think of some. I just think that maybe if we weren't agreeing on a topic, the way he saw things more in a straight line, very organized, and everything sometimes conflicted with all the little like pieces of things I could see. Normally he'd be able to, like, out of the whole like crazy complex like web I was talking about, he could understand where I was going with it. And he like helped me formulate things into a very clear idea. I'm just trying to think of like if there was conflict. Yeah, it's just if we didn't really agree on a topic, we could end up debating about it, but that didn't always feel like conflict to me. It never felt like we were conflicting unless it felt like he wasn't on my team for certain things, and that doesn't mean he had to agree with me. You know, we disagreed about certain things, but as long as I knew we were still on the same side, that we still respected each other and supported each other, I think once you lose the respect or the trust, that's where all the doubt and problems start to get in for both types. Both types, if there's any reason to distrust what the other person is doing, all of a sudden it's really hard to feel safe. So that's something I would warn about with both INTJ and ENFP, is you need to keep that trust going and the respect too for each other's type and what they're good at. Yeah, that's pretty much all I can think about.
That. So they didn't how did they react? I mean, maybe you're like a very more organized ENFP, but I know that
true.
my best friend, for example, she's really like all over the place, and and yeah, she cannot really handle yet her feelings herself and things like that. So
oh yeah,
but that was not your case, right?
Not really, but I still get very emotional about certain things, and he kind of learned the things. He took the time to understand what makes me upset and what I don't appreciate and things like that. So that helped. But the first few times I would get emotional. I'd be like, you know, if we were at a party and someone kind of said something to me, you know, I'd get upset and he'd realize that's not something I like. Oh, I just had a thought about INTJ. I don't want to lose it. Oh, a conflict point side thing is that I think one thing they struggle with ENFPs, especially if they're not maybe like me, where I'm more like organized because I have to be for work and I trained myself to be really organized, is they can get irritated with the, first of all, being late. He did get mad at me because I'm always like a few minutes behind.
Yeah.
And then yeah, if I couldn't like make certain decisions. Oh yeah, I remember that now. If if we took too long, like if I was doing something kind of for the fun of it, I'd have to be a bit aware. If I could start to feel him getting tense, which is where I'm glad I can feel emotions so much and read people, but if I started to feel him getting tense, like I remember one time we were in the store and I was kind of just having fun picking things out, but INTJ, I guess they go into stores and they want the one thing that they want and they're like, can we get out of here?
Yeah.
And I was just like, should we make the cupcakes taste like orange or lemon, you know? And normally, like, we'd have fun doing it, but just that day, if you don't communicate enough, like, he was expecting that we leave because he had a schedule because we needed to meet people and things like that. He was like, we're not going to have time, you know? And he'd get frustrated at me just like, la-da-da, you know?
Yeah.
So that was a conflict point. And if I was late, or it's just the P that, you know, the P that sometimes would frustrate him. But I knew what areas. I tried harder to be on time for him, and I tried harder to be aware if he wanted to keep things moving, you know. And he also tried to let me have my space. So,
and what troubled you in his behavior? What did you not like?
That pretty much that. It was sometimes the schedule would make me mad because it felt like the schedule was getting in the way of us.
Yeah.
You know, I'd say like, but I'm not done talking about this, you know, like I'm not done watching my thing, or I wanted time to have my creative moment or watch my show, and he was like, but we gotta go, and be like, oh, fine, you know. So we had to find that balance, but sometimes I'd get mad if it just felt like the schedule was starting to get in the. So once in a while, it felt like it never felt like me against him. It felt like me against the schedule.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes I'd be like, darn. But yeah, that was pretty much it. I can't think of a lot of other things that would frustrate me about that relationship.
So maybe like so you were talking a lot. Also maybe because you like talking about the same things, and but how did you deal with his introversion? Was he a lot introverted? Did you felt sometimes that he just didn't want to talk or wanted to be alone for some time, or not really?
I loved his introversion. I think ENFPs are really drawn to introverts. They have fun with extroverts, but it's introverts that fascinate us. There's something really deep there. And, you know, so I really liked it. What was really weird was when we were in France, more of my introverted side came out because ENFPs are the most introverted of the extroverts. So more of my introverted side came out, and he had this network that he'd worked so hard to build with friends and family. So he was always throwing parties, and I was like, can we just take a break from the parties, you know? And then when he was here, his introvert side came out a lot. And I was the extrovert, you know, that's how I'm used to it feeling. But yeah, there were a couple times that INTJ can get cranky. And I think for ENFP, there's just that love there where we're like, oh, INTJ is upset, you know? So we don't really get too offended. I mean, sometimes INTJ can say something a little like harsh when they're in a cranky mood. And it's like, ouch, that hurt, you know, but then they'll check on you right away. Like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that. I'm kind of in a bad mood, you know? And sometimes they're not even aware they're in a bad mood. That's what I've noticed. But there was a time we were going for a walk and I was talking about stuff and he just said something where he was like, do we have to talk right now? And I was like, sorry. but then that's where the introverted side came out. Like, I tried really hard to respect him when he was thinking hard and working on something, to like just let him do that. But then in turn, when I did interrupt him when I felt like I had to, he would like really respond with everything he had, you know, so I knew he wasn't just ignoring me. I liked his introverted side. We could kind of introvert together sometimes, you know, brought out my introverted thing. And he said many times I helped him be way more extroverted the way I talk to people, and he saw how I talk to people. And I think they find that very attractive too, like just watching an ENFP just, you know, work the room.
And because it seems that those are things like kind of rules that you agreed on, you two. So is that something that at the end you actually talked about and like agreed on, or is it something like that's completely natural, like you say, when you say like he said that, but like the importance is the respect? I don't know if I'm very clear.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it felt like most of it was natural, but then if something was coming up, whereas in other relationships of mine, it had to reach a point where like we were almost like exploding on each other for it to come out. But I felt like in our relationship, if something was a problem, we could get mildly frustrated with each other, but then, or we wouldn't get frustrated at all, and he would just say like, I think this is becoming a problem, you know. And we'd talk about it, and it was just easy. Most of it came natural, but we did actually now that I think about it, we had a lot of discussions about what would you like to, we were always like improving the relationship and setting up new like rules or things that would make it better, like talking about what is working. And it's almost like we'd regularly check in with each other without having to think about it too much. And if and another thing is, he would make it very clear if we had to, where he would say like, okay, I think we should have a discussion about this at 6 p.m. tomorrow. You know, I was like, okay. And we would have our discussion and we'd get it done. I'd always walk away from one of our discussions feeling like we resolved the problem, you know? And if something wasn't mentioned, we clearly would have like a discussion number 2. And it was just, it wasn't hard. It was just kind of.
That's very interesting, because the thing that is like the first question we had in our list was like ENFP checking out regularly, like to see where we are at, and like wanting to improve the relationship, asking questions. Like some people take that as I don't remember the word, smothering. But for you and him, like, it's just the way you're doing it. So that's,
I mean, yeah. I mean, it felt like he matched me with the amount of wanting to check in.
That's amazing.
You know, before I forget about it, I should just say, because I don't think this is said enough, a little bit of what you were saying about, I think that INTJs should know maybe what an ENFP finds so attractive about them. And I said it's a little bit of that logical, but like truthfully, when I see an INTJ in front of me, it feels like, first of all, they have that stare that's just like that super dark. I used to tell him all the time that it felt like I could see like a storm brewing, like in his on his face and in his eyes. It's like that really dark stare, and then it feels like off their whole body is this radiating like steady kind of dark intellectual. It feels like I can see it coming off of them, you know?
Yeah.
And I think for ENFP, what they see is this like bubbly light, you know, that's just like super positive and reaching out into the world, and like big eyes and wonder and awe. And I think like an ENFP really reaches into the inner child in an INTJ, you know? So I always thought it was interesting how it felt like the light and the dark like came together, like with that relationship. And I saw it with, you know, I nannied for a family where the parents were ENFP, INTJ, and I always thought about them like, wow, they're such a great couple, you know. And then they would, you know, drink sometimes and come home and they'd say things, and I was like, yep, they're definitely one of those couples. Like just the way they talked to each other when they weren't so focused on like, oh, someone's watching. And I was like, yeah, they're that couple.
So thank you, Amber, for talking about your relationship. I hope people understand better the natural connections that exist between people, and we'll come back for more couple interviews really soon. So stay tuned, and bye, Amber. Talk to you soon.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.